100 days in the long dark, and somehow I survived. It wasn't easy for sure. Several times I thought I was gonna die. But here I am, ready to try it again. Because in this game, there's only one end. Sitting here at this forestry lookout, I was ready to continue the journey.
Oh, we left off up here, I forgot.
I'd made it to 100 days without dying, despite some very close calls. Now, if only I could remember the controls.
Forgot how to do things. Okay. Bow and arrow. This game's too stressful.
As I got the hang of things again, I knew food was quickly gonna become an issue. Maybe I should go look for some rabbits. Down the stairs, I had a quick look around, then chickened out and went right back up to the safety of the building. The wolves in this game are everywhere, well, except when there's a bear, so I just don't think I'm ready to go out yet. I started a fire instead, melting some snow for water. Warmed up some coffee too, making sure to pick up my cans when I was done. Always having a can with you for water is a lesson I learned from my first 100 days. It had been a while since I'd played, but I was feeling a bit warmer and more confident now after a nice cup of coffee, and I headed back out to hunt for some food. It was foggy out and I couldn't see very far. Did I just hear a wolf? I wasn't sure, but as this rabbit came into view and I took my first shot, I heard it again. Definitely a wolf. As usual, there were 2 rabbits and I shot them both, gathering my arrows before picking up the stinky things. I hustled back, knowing the wolf could smell the rabbits I was carrying. This little path looked so interesting though, just a quick detour should be fine. It led to a crashed plane and someone who definitely didn't need this tin of sardines anymore.
This might pay for anything.
The wolf sounded pretty far away now, but that can change fast. It's back inside for me. I heard it howl again as I started to harvest the first rabbit. Soon enough, I'll have to deal with it, but not today. I finished the evening cooking the rabbit, boiling more snow to drink, and using the scraps of cloth I had to repair some of my clothes. I'll sleep here and leave this place in the morning. I woke up early and it was still dark out, but at the end of my first 100 days, I'd found a big hydro dam full of supplies and I wanted to get back to it. So I killed some time waiting for the sun to rise, with my kid watching right over my shoulder.
And she'd just be like, and then I had to go pee.
After I could see a bit better, I headed out, but only to find out it was way too cold. Back inside it is. I went back inside and spent some time reading while waiting for it to warm up, then tried again. It was still cold, just not quite as bad, and I headed down the mountain and back to these railroad tracks. There was a pack of wolves at these wrecked train cars before, but I'd fought them off then. This time it seemed all clear, and I harvested what was left of this dough. It was a bit risky, I was stinky now and would attract any wolves nearby. I climbed up to higher ground to look ahead, and after deciding it was clear, continued on down the tracks. It wasn't long, the dam was in sight, along with a wolf that quickly got a sniff of the deer meat I was carrying and started my way. As it ran in, I fired a shot, a little earlier than I probably should have, but managed to hit it anyway, putting it on the run and upping my revolver skill to level 4. I followed, watching it disappear around the bend, deciding I'd wait just in case it had any friends. Instead, I went to the safety of the gate at the Carter Hydro Dam. The wolf will bleed out eventually on its own, but I was about to be starving. I'd already searched the place pretty well and stored a few things in this locker. Looks like there's only a couple bags of beef jerky to eat, though. I grabbed my storm lantern and had a quick look around inside the darker part of the building. It was such a big place, I definitely could have missed something. But so far, I'd only found some socks and boots I'd left behind. Guess I'll go cook that deer meat for now. I started the fire out front and put it on to cook. My first 100 days, I'd maxed out cooking to level 5, which means I can eat pretty much anything without the usual risks. No food poisoning from spoiled food or parasites from predator meat. Raw meat is still off the menu, I found that out the hard way, but throw this old rancid meat on the fire, it'll be just fine. I used some charcoal to map after that and decided to double check these trailers across the tracks. The calories from the deer meat won't last long and I'll be hungry again. There wasn't any food in them, only a few random things. I was getting really tired though and went back to the dam for the night. Before bed, snacking on some of these cattails I'd forgotten about. Day 3, I set out the deer skin and some birch saplings to cure, then stepped outside to realize it was still very dark.
Ooh, it's cold.
I went back in to nap a couple hours, waking up to a blizzard this time.
Oh, it sounds awful out now.
Reading it is. I also checked my skills. I've only maxed out cooking so far. Looks like a couple skills aren't far behind. I wonder how many more I can max out before the end. I ate a pack of beef jerky and some cattails next with some water, then headed outside to find the weather was much better now. I was hoping to find that wolf I'd shot somewhere and cautiously headed down this hill where I'd seen it last. No dead wolf, but there were plenty of deer. One of these will keep me fed for a few days easily. I picked this big buck that was off by itself and snuck as close as I could before shooting it with my revolver. A little unsure if I'd hit it or not, I shot it again before following the footprints and drops of blood, only to find a wolf had gotten to it first. I shot the wolf too, wasting more bullets than I'd like to admit. And I don't think I hit it even once. Got the deer though. Just over the hill on my way back with the stinky deer meat, there was the wolf again.
Ooh,
And this time I hit it for sure. I only harvested its hide, not wanting to waste any time, considering I was already loaded down and smelly.
this game's so stressful. Should reload.
Then I took it all back to the dam, listening carefully for more wolf howls on my way. I put 2 pieces of the venison on the fire and dropped the rest outside, then took the wolf hide inside to start drying it out.
Drop.
I already had a couple deer hides here curing, and some guts. I'd made deerskin boots and pants along with a wolfskin coat in my first 100 days, but I'll need these to keep repairing them or they'll eventually break. After a quick lunch and a nap, I made my way back to the deer. I'd noticed another one down just past it, and wanted to collect both their hides. There was a hunter's blind here too, and it gave me some horrible flashbacks. Last place I'd seen a hunter's blind, things hadn't gone so great. I grabbed the hides anyway though, and headed back to my temporary home.
No. That was dumb. Where'd it go away?
After sleeping in on day 4, I ended up with a cabin fever risk. I wasn't too concerned and stayed inside to finish this book before going out. Outside, I started a fire to melt more snow for water, then started back to get the rest of the meat off the deer. I had a flare out just to be safe, and on my way I saw this wolf attack another deer. Looks like a good opportunity to me. I figured I'd get rid of the wolf and get even more deer meat in the process, but of course I missed with my first shot. Definitely got it on the second, and chased it for a moment before deciding to go harvest the deer for now instead. This is my lucky day. Do I hear footsteps though? Yep, it was just the same wolf running back by, and after it disappeared again, I looked around and thought the deer had disappeared too somehow.
Wait. Oh, that was just dumb.
I took the meat and hide, running back to safety until I was out of breath.
Oh, fire's still going. Look at that.
I had a quick lunch and then followed the birds to find the second wolf. I harvested its hide and guts, then grabbed the deer's guts too. They'll have to cure first, but I can use them to craft several different things. I finished out the day reading up on different skills until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore and went inside for bed. I started day 5 harvesting the meat from the first wolf and cooking it up for breakfast, then followed the frozen water collecting all the cattails I could find. I hadn't heard any more wolves and thought it might be a good time to explore. Eventually, I found something interesting, a climbing rope.
Oh, there's a rope to climb.
Then I realized it looked familiar. I had already climbed it in my first 100 days. That's okay, I'm too tired to climb it anyway. The weather outside was awful the next morning, and I stayed inside, having another look around the dam. I definitely missed a few things, along with some stuff I'd just left for less weight. My favorite was this new festive sweater with a bear on it.
Oh my god, I love it.
Can't even see it under my wolfskin coat, but I don't care. I know it's there. Time to go back outside. I wanted to check out the hunter's blind where the deer went down. Since I'd been attacked by a bear at the last one I saw, I was a little nervous. There were a couple rabbits hopping around down there though, so I took that as a good sign. The rose hips outside were nice. The stuff inside was even nicer. I found a whole arrow, a rifle cartridge, and 10 rounds of revolver ammo. Good deal, I've been wasting it left and right. I hunted the rabbits, mostly for the extra archery practice. Yep, I definitely need it. Might as well grab whatever meat's left on this deer, too. Now, back home with the stinky stuff. After accidentally shooting my pistol at the gate again, I decided it was probably best if I put it away, dropped the deer meat outside, collected the feathers from the arrows I'd broken, then harvested all the goodies from the rabbits. I had quite the mess of stuff curing now. Once it cures, I can use it to repair my gear before traveling to the next region. I'd already explored most of this Mystery Lake region in my first 100 days, and wanted to see what else there is to find. Day 7 was pretty boring, really. I boiled a bunch of water, cooked up some of my meat stash, and collected some more wood for the fire. Then on day 8, I spent the morning repairing my deerskin boots and trying to figure out how to get to this memento cache marked on my map. I had no idea how to get to it, and wandered around for a while trying to get behind the dam before going back inside to warm up. After that, I figured I'd mark up my map some and hunted a couple rabbits I ran into on the way. I thought about repairing my deerskin pants the next morning, but didn't when I saw they were only at 91%, so I put the skins in my storage locker and grabbed some cloth to repair my jacket instead. Then went back outside looking for the cache. Could I have missed something way up beside the dam here? Maybe. I surveyed the area, hoping it might reveal something. Nope. Frustrated with not being able to find it, I decided to follow the tracks into the ravine. I'd been here for just a moment at the end of my first 100 days, and was curious to see what there was to find here. I don't like to look up anything about games when I play them, so I have no idea what each region holds. This led me to seriously stressing as I explored anywhere new. I didn't know where the buildings and caves were if a blizzard popped in. Even worse, I had no idea what regions had bears. To make things a little less terrifying, I used the high ground to my advantage, climbing hills and rocks to look ahead for predators, while also listening very carefully for any howls or growls. I ended up finding a cave with a few goodies, including this climbing rope. Then I followed part of the tracks through this tunnel to a big bridge. I hesitated before walking on it, and then hesitated again when I got to this sketchy broken piece. Curiosity was pulling at me to cross it, but we all know how the saying goes, and I won't have much of a video to make if I die on day 9. I put the climbing rope out at the spot on my way, and too tired to climb it, continued on home. I stayed at the dam almost all of the next day, cooking up the rest of my meat stash and more water. It seems like a lot, but in just a couple days it'll be gone. Inside, I found my wolf hide had cured, so now I can fix my coat and head somewhere new. Or not. The repair had failed and must have ruined the hide. Now I'll have to wait for the other one to cure before I can try again. Well, maybe I can repair these underwear and improve my mending skill.
Night is coming.
Guess it's just not a good day for sewing. Or much of anything, really. I accidentally lit this flare inside when I was trying to get in the locker, too. That's okay, though. I'd noticed that this part of the building was called the upper dam, which made me realize there must be a lower dam. So I took the flare as an excuse to explore the place again. I headed down the stairs into this big place, where I started checking doors, eventually finding this one I must have assumed was locked before. There we go, lower dam. Hey there, buddy. Do you mind if I borrow this lantern here? The first room held another door, which I assume leads outside. It was night now, though, and I want to search this place first. I didn't find anything too interesting, just more of the usual stuff. My flare ran out, and I switched over to the lantern for the last area. I'd found quite a lot of clothes, a few snacks, and then this jackpot of MREs in this lockbox I must have had a key for. Then I found something I'd been hoping to find the whole first 100 days. Could it really be?
Thank you.
A hunting rifle. I'd been carrying around rifle ammo forever, hoping to eventually find one, and here it was. Absolutely thrilled, I headed back upstairs. I was too tired anyway. Maybe I'll check out this other door tomorrow. I didn't though. With all the random clothing I'd found, I decided to harvest the material from it and repair some of my gear, trying to level up my mending skill. I had plenty of meat left outside to eat, and by the end of the day I'd reached level 3. Only to try and fail again on the morning of day 12, wasting my last wolf hide. Well, daggone it. I did manage to repair my storm lantern with some simple tools and scrap metal, then killed some time sharpening my knife and axe as a storm howled outside. I wanted to see what was through that door, hoping I might be able to get to the cache from there, and dumped almost everything I had in the locker, including my amazing new rifle. It was heavy and I had a pistol to deal with wolves, so I figured I'd leave it in here for now. I packed some beef jerky and an MRE for the trip, ate a nice piece of venison for lunch, then headed back down to the lower dam. Paying no mind at all to the red emergency exit signs, went right through the door. I was right about it leading outside behind the dam and was pretty excited to explore somewhere new. Crossing this ledge here seemed interesting, but I decided against it and started having a look around. There was a pipe with a cooler in it I couldn't get to without breaking the pallets, then a frozen corpse with a knife and a granola bar. A snowy path led down to the frozen water, and I had a moment of panic when I thought I couldn't get back over this hill. That would just be awful if I couldn't get back into the dam. Over the next ledge, I spotted a couple wolves on the ice. Easy enough. The first one fell with one shot, and the second one ran when it saw me. As I took a moment to reload, though, it changed its mind. Well, that could have gone better. It didn't hurt me too much, and I heard it fall as I started to skin the first one. I stayed out till the sun was going down, harvesting the meat, before heading back up the path to the dam. Only to find the door was locked. Well, maybe I can go back around to the front. Better drop all this stinky stuff first, though. As darkness fell, I looked helplessly for a way up and around. With no cloth to build a snow shelter and no bedroll to sleep in, I was starting to panic. I'd assumed I'd be able to get right back in, only bringing a bit of water and food. Of course, I'd even left my can to boil water in. Hoping I might find a building to shelter in for the night, I started walking. The darkness had me on my toes as I wandered, lost through the night. I'd never been here and had no idea where to go. Eventually, there was a path that led to a cave that leaves this place, and weighing my options, I decided to go inside. I'd found some shelter, but I still couldn't sleep without a bedroll, so I pushed quickly on despite being a bit worried about bears, praying I'd find something that would help. And wouldn't you know, I found a bedroll. Full of relief, I grabbed it first before picking up the other things and checking the backpack. At least I'd brought plenty of snacks. Lucky day 13. I'd managed to survive the night, but was still stuck outside the dam where all my goodies were stored. I could go back in the day and hope for a way back inside, or I could just follow this cave for a while and see where it leads. I wonder if this guy made the same mistake I did. Thanks for the energy bar anyway. This deer wasn't looking so hot either, making me worry about meeting whatever had killed it. All I found past it, though, was a dead end. I turned around and followed this ramp up instead, finally finding the exit. Outside the cave, things looked a lot like Mystery Lake again, but I guess snow and trees can only look so many ways. It clearly says I'm in Pleasant Valley. With a name like that, it can't be too bad. Oops, guess I can turn off this lantern now. I climbed a rock to check for wolves ahead when I spotted a bridge. That's a good sign. Maybe there are some buildings nearby. This cave I found next was completely empty, and I made my way to the bridge. From it, I ended up spotting some sort of roof, which belonged to this little picnic spot. I picked up a few things there and made my way out on this frozen pond, collecting a couple cattails at its edge, then going into this nice fishing hut set up at the center. Trying not to think too hard about all the good stuff I had stored up at the dam that were now lost, I started a fire to warm up and searched the hut. Might as well do some fishing while I wait. I caught a fish and threw it on the stove. Food wasn't really an issue yet, but water was about to be. I can't believe I forgot my can. While the fish cooked, I started having a better look around, hoping to find a building to search somewhere, when this wolf gave me a heart attack. Luckily, one shot was enough to run him off, and I was able to search a bit longer before going back to check on my fish. Starting to get tired, I decided to push on in hopes of finding a can or some water.
Oh, rest suit.
Another bridge in the distance caught my eye, and I discovered this little shed. All it held was some salty crackers that would only make things worse. I took a ruined energy drink to keep myself awake, and closer to the bridge I noticed power lines too and a bunch of hay bales. Hopeful and full of energy for now, I followed the road, sticking close to the fence when I noticed 2 wolves in the trees. I'm pretty sure I see a big red barn over there. I checked this car first, and then my energy drink wore off, leaving me with a headache. Now I'm having a hard time telling if those are hay bales or bears. Extra jumpy, I made my way to the shed first, where I found just what I needed: dog food. Well, the can it was in, more specifically. Relieved, I checked the other sheds as my headache eased. Then I finally felt the safety of a closed building again when I entered this barn. There was more dog food here in a can that was already empty, which I got right to melting some snow in. My hydration hadn't gotten too low yet, but if I hadn't found any cans, I'd have been in big trouble. Definitely won't make that mistake again. Well, I probably won't. After a stressful couple days, I didn't wander too far on day 14, staying inside for most of the morning, clearing everything near the barn, and harvesting some stuff inside to warm up. Then I went back to grab some things I'd seen at the fishing pond. Maple saplings, rose hips, dead guy, mushrooms, and corn dogs, of course. I'd hoped to find the wolf I'd shot the day before too, and looked for a while before I had to go warm up in this cave.
Perfect.
I did spot a live wolf from on top of it after that, and headed the other way. I wonder what makes those marks on the trees I keep seeing here. Definitely not these rabbits I missed. I had a decent amount of food already I'd scavenged, but if I don't stay ahead, I'll be starving in no time. So I hunted another rabbit the next morning before going out exploring. I grabbed several cattails as I followed the river. You know the saying, a cattail a day keeps the scurvy away. By lunch, I was freezing and went inside for a while, only to find a blizzard when I went back out. Guess I'll stay in a little longer. I can always boil some extra water. The blizzard finally passed that evening, and I noticed a small pack of wolves in the field. I needed another wolf skin to repair my coat anyway. Walking close enough to catch the attention of the closest one, I waited for it to move in and fired with my pistol. I still panic when the wolves attack, freezing up when I need to pick my weapon. Definitely not the gun though. The comments really didn't like that in my first 100 days. I was mostly fine after the attack, and the other 2 wolves ran, leaving me free to go check out this little building down here. It was getting late, but why not check out this tractor while I'm here? And you know what? Now I'm close to this birch forest. Might as well see if there's any bark lying around.
Ooh, there's a cave.
I spotted this cave to check out and very quickly turned right around. I'd seen bones inside, and I've seen them in a cave only one other time. The cave at the bear pond in Mystery Lake. Nope. No bears allowed today. I went looking for the wolf I'd shot the next morning. Finding birds over this shed, I thought maybe it was here. Instead, only someone who must have forgotten to bring a can. A little on edge after finding the bear cave, I kept looking over to the trees, but something round caught my eye over this hill, and I crossed this frozen creek to find a farmhouse. Ooh, I love the joy of finding a new building in this game. You might pop over the hill to find nothing but the bleakness of more snow and trees, or a nice little house just waiting to be searched, or a bear. Sometimes it's a bear.
I'll take it.
After searching the whole house and its basement too, I was loaded down with more gear than I could carry. A lot of it was clothes, and I started scrapping the ones I couldn't use, harvesting the cloth. Then I decided to read this book I'd found for archery when the cabin fever risk hit. To the porch. I finished going through the clothes and a bit more reading as a wolf howled in the background. Then as night fell, I didn't notice how cold it had gotten and ended up with a hypothermia risk next. Cabin fever or freeze to death. Inside it is. Warmed ruined peaches for dinner, a nice book by the fire, and off to bed. I could get used to this. Well, if it weren't for this cabin fever issue. I put away a few of the heavier things I'd found and went back outside the next morning for a nice surprise. A bear. Thankfully, I spotted it off in the distance before going that way to explore. It was awfully far from the cave I'd found. Could there be 2 bears? It was uncomfortably close, and I watched it for a long time before deciding to go inside and warm up for a while. Cabin fever was still looming, and I went back out after lunch. A little worried the bear might be waiting for me. It was still off in the distance, and I could see some wolves too. Guess I'll be going the opposite way for now. I found some birch saplings I can cure for arrows, and a deer carcass in this shed. Then I marked my map and started harvesting what was left of the deer. Uh-oh. Well, I hadn't planned for that. It was a blizzard out now, and night was falling fast. I could already feel the panic setting in. I couldn't see a thing, didn't have enough cloth for a snow shelter, it was too windy to start a fire, and I knew there were wolves and at least one bear around I could wander into. This is definitely not good. I decided to drop the meat and try to get back to the farmhouse. I had a general idea of its direction, but everything looked the same and I found myself quickly confused, losing my way. This rock sheltered me for a moment as I tried to survey the area and mark my map, but the visibility was too low. I looked at my map anyway, which was no help at all, then left the shelter of the rock to continue in what I hoped was the right direction. Things were not going well. I was lost and starting to think this might be the end. If I can't find some sort of shelter soon, I'll freeze to death. Just when I was starting to give up hope, I walked over this hill and right into a road. It was so covered with snow I almost didn't notice. I had no idea what road it was. Still pretty unfamiliar with this place, but it's better than nothing. I followed it, eventually coming to a bridge, and then this broken tree I was sure I'd seen before. These trees came next that had been all around the farmhouse. There was a huge field of them though, and I wandered through it, looking all around for any sign of the house. And finally, there it was. Somehow I'd managed to survive. So I had a drink and rearranged the house. As if I hadn't played it risky enough, I checked for the bear the next morning and went to check this building. The tractor near it was empty, and inside wasn't much better. As I left the place, I spotted the bear in the trees and hustled back to warm up at the farmhouse. Oh, I didn't know this was here. After warming back up, I went out to this new closed-in porch. I like the idea of being able to check for bears or wolves without fully committing to meeting them. I made a pitiful attempt at hunting a deer next, then went back to the barn. Despite the cool porch, I really don't like the idea of a bear roaming around. I dropped off a few things while I warmed up and had some dog food for lunch. I'd made sure to grab enough cloth for a snow shelter too before going back out. Freezing to death in a blizzard is just not how I want to go. With cabin fever trying to make a return, I headed outside and spent the morning trying to kill a wolf. I fought with 2, or maybe the same wolf, I'm not sure. The second tussle left me bleeding and stinky with a risk of infection. Then the head trauma must have gotten to me because I went back out and started tracking my own blood trail. Maybe I'll just hunt this rabbit for now. Sorry, little guy. I spent the evening looking for a wolf body, hoping it had bled out somewhere nearby. Instead, the birds only led me to these guys. Oops. Gonna have to remember to keep my finger off the trigger before I shoot myself in the foot. If that was a thing in this game, I'm sure I'd have done it already. I tried to spend some time outside the next day and finally found one of the wolves I'd shot. I was thankful for the extra food, and my wolfskin coat was getting pretty worn. I put the meat on the fire and set the hide inside. Maybe by the time it cures, I can increase my mending skill again. That evening, I decided to go get what was left of the wolf when I ran into another that was coming straight for me. I guess it was sniffing out my trail from before. It saw my gun and ran, but it wouldn't hurt to have a second wolf hide. As I followed, it ran again when I heard another wolf. This one chickened out too, and I wasted 2 bullets trying to shoot it. Dang it. It changed its mind though, and this time I didn't miss. The other one eventually wandered back to meet the end of my gun too. Looks like I'll have 3 hides to cure. I cooked up some of the meat for breakfast the next morning outside. I'd rather cook inside, but the threat of cabin fever was still looming. I repaired my rabbit skin hat outside by the fire too, and then went to harvest the hide and meat from the other wolf. Repaired this hat after that, harvested some cattails and its lichen, then surveyed the area with these wolves in the background. Finally rid of the cabin fever risk, I spent the evening inside breaking down crates before calling it a night. I harvested everything else from the wolves the next day and cooked up the meat. Then I had a few birch saplings that had finished curing, so I turned them into arrow shafts. I only had enough arrowheads for 2 arrows, but only enough light to finish 1 that night. I finished the second the next morning. I was pretty thankful to have a workbench in the barn to make them on. May not seem like much, 2 arrows, but when you shoot them, at least you can get them back, unlike all the pistol ammo I've been blowing through lately. Feeling more confident after fighting the wolves, I traveled back to the farmhouse. I'd left this deer skin, which I can use for repairs after all the wolf attacks. Then I followed some birds in the sky that led me to this guy. And back to the barn. Day 124, I was running through the wolf meat fast and snagged this rabbit the next morning. I was struggling with deer still, running this one off before I even got a shot in, and instead harvesting some burdock root and cattails to eat. Well, at least I'll keep up my vitamin C. I followed the frozen river next, ending up at the scratched trees I'd seen before. Would you looky there, it's a moose. I'd love to make a moose hide satchel and thought very seriously about shooting it right then. But I was already about to freeze, and honestly, I'm just a big chicken. If only I had a hunting rifle. I hunted this deer instead the next day, thinking a lot about the rifle I'd found back at the dam in Mystery Lake. Surely there's some way to get back to the front of the dam from here. I spent the next morning making myself a new bow, which I tested on this target. Then, with plenty of meat from the deer, I won't have to worry about food for a few days. I think it's time to explore. I felt safer following the frozen water, knowing I could follow it back if I needed to. I took this turn to the left first, finding a cave I marked on my map. Then I went the other way and I spotted some sort of building off in the distance. Ooh, my favorite. There were a couple rabbits and these wolves, so I climbed up on this rock to map the place. This first house was all boarded up, and then on the hill was a church. It was pretty inside, but didn't hold much. I cleared it out and went to the next house. There was some food on the counter there, and mostly empty cabinets except for a couple sodas. I found a bit of cooked fish in the oven and quite a few clothes. None of them were very good though, and I spent the evening tearing them up for cloth. After staying the night, I got back to searching the next morning, finding some ketchup chips in this truck, some crackers and beans in another house, more clothes in the trunk of this car, and then as I was searching this farmer's market, I heard a wolf. I started looking around and got out my gun, spotting it and going the other way. right into another one that I never even saw. It must have got a good look at my wolfskin coat and ran. Then there were two more that spooked too when I turned my gun on them. This one came back and I shot it before it attacked, then hit it right in the face with my axe. It must have freaked out the others a bit and they all ran, though I thought this one was trying to attack and tried to shoot it too. Not like I've got a limited supply of ammo or anything. Bleeding from the attack, I went inside the nearest house to bandage myself up, only to find I didn't have any bandages. Thankfully, I had plenty of cloth though and was able to craft some. The infection risk, on the other hand, I'll have to find some antiseptic for. I searched the little house and found some food, empty cabinets, clothes, and toilet water.
I'll take it.
I don't think any of that will help. Back outside, I spotted one wolf still prowling nearby, and it wasn't long it spotted me too. I could have easily made it inside, but it'll just be waiting when I come back out, so instead I stood my ground and let it attack. I shot it, then axed it too. They really don't seem to like that axe much. I took a bit of damage, no bleeding this time though, and hopefully that'll be the last of them for a while. Inside the next building was some sort of community center, full of pop and random snacks. I kept searching, hoping for antiseptic. Nope, not here. No. Ooh, ammo. I was starting to worry as I rummaged through the empty cabinets in the kitchen, and then there it was. Relieved, I used it to clean the wolf bite and got back to clearing out the place. After dropping some things and taking a quick nap, I went back outside. I thought these birds might be circling a wolf, but it was only this dead guy. Despite the wolf encounter, this little town had been a pretty nice find. I stayed that night in the community center, waking up to find a blizzard outside. Looks like I'll be staying a little longer, Mr. Moose. It eventually passed and I continued searching the town. I'd found so much I was having to be a lot pickier about what I picked up. This stump remover is heavy and used for making ammo, but in all my 128 days here, I've not found an ammunition bench yet. I ended my search when I spotted one more wolf across this bridge. Tired of dealing with them, this time I just went the other way. I was already carrying too much anyway. These birds caught my eye next, and I found one of the wolves I'd shot. I took only its hide, not wanting the smell of the meat to attract more wolves on my way back to the barn. A lot of good that did. These two were waiting on me just over the bridge. Well, it's nice to be home at least. In the barn, I decided to store some of the food I'd found, completely forgetting that when you put ruined items in storage, they disappear. Thanks to my cooking skill, I could have eaten them without getting sick, but there they go, and I didn't even notice. Next, I spent some time finally making successful repairs on my wolfskin coat before going back outside that evening. I hoped the wolf might be down somewhere nearby, but instead, I only found its friend. This one fell on the first shot, and I stayed out late harvesting its hide and guts. Didn't really need it, just habit I guess. A little stinky, I hustled home, trying to see in the dark. I could see the barn at least, and when I got closer, I saw something else. A big, hulking bear. Its breath showing in the cold as it walked right towards me. Already out of stamina, I couldn't even run. And completely terrified, I sidestepped myself the rest of the way to the barn. I put off going back outside the next morning, moving things around instead and repairing my deerskin pants. I'd seen a bear over by the farmhouse before, but that was pretty far from the barn. I guess there definitely are two of them. Eventually, I got brave enough and went back out, looking all around for signs of the bear. Then went to harvest the meat off the wolf when I thought it was all clear. Bringing back the stinky stuff, I noticed another wolf sniffing along. I watched it for a moment, wanting to have an idea of where it was for when I came back out. I crafted a new arrow while warming up inside, then back outside I was in for quite the surprise. I never saw it this time, but I heard it just fine. In the safety of the barn, I stood in shock for a moment. It nearly scared me to death. Despite knowing it could be there, I just wasn't prepared. Once I cleared my head, though, I realized maybe this wasn't all that bad. I could use a bear skin for a very nice coat or bedroll. I made sure my pistol was fully loaded, pulled myself together, and went right back outside. The bear was gone, though. I started a fire, occasionally checking around the other side of the barn, where the wolf was still prowling, and then there it was. Crouching by the fire, I waited for it to get closer, almost chickening out. I didn't know and shot it 3 times before it turned to run. Determined to kill it now and not have to find it later, I fired, shooting it again, not thinking it would turn back around. Inside, I took a moment, reloaded my pistol, and made myself go right back out.
3, 2, 1, go.
Again, the bear was gone. No footprints or blood either. Did I miss, or does it just go away if you go inside? Assuming it would bleed out and I'd find it the next day, I went out the next morning to find it alive and well. Well, darn. I waited again, thinking maybe I'd just missed some of the shots the day before. It stayed further away this time, and I got impatient, throwing a rock at it to get its attention. It growled and I fired. I kept firing as it got closer and closer. It's going to run now, right? Wrong. Very wrong. I woke up from my nap, bleeding pretty bad, and grabbed my pistol before stumbling back inside.
Gotta stop the bleeding before it gets worse.
Out of bandages again, I had to craft more to stop the bleeding, then use some antiseptic to keep things from getting infected. Thankful to be alive, I stayed in for the rest of the day. My clothes were looking pretty rough after the attack, too, so I spent some time repairing everything. I think I might go to bed early tonight. I started searching the next day for signs of the bear, dead or alive.
Oh, dang. That was rough.
I didn't see anything for a while and hunted this rabbit. Then, when I came back out after lunch, there it was again, still alive. I waited, this time shooting it with my bow. It ran at first, then stopped and ran right for me. I got a couple more arrows out before running inside, and of course when I went back out, the bear was gone. I should have caught on at this point. The arrows were out front as if the bear had just poofed. It took one more attempt and I realized the bear was probably just resetting when I went inside. Guess I'll have to rethink this strategy. Of course, the bear was still there the next day, and I started to feel a bit dumb for wasting all that ammo, and starting to get cabin fever again, too. I decided to give it a break, instead going to explore the other way. I marked out my map a bit and found this very sad picnic spot, then ended up going back to the little fishing pond, where I managed to waste one more bullet. Great. I finished the day gathering firewood, watching for the bear, and trying to figure out what I was going to do next. Day 133, I thought maybe I could attack the bear and then hide in this tractor to keep it from resetting, so I boiled water inside and kept checking outside, but never saw the bear that day, only this poor rabbit. At this point, I was running low on food and decided to do some hunting, hitting not 1 but 2 deer. I'm honestly not sure why I hit the second one and wasn't sure which one I was following when I tracked its blood trail to this little town. Turns out it was the buck, and it couldn't have fallen at a better place. I harvested most of it and took it in the community center, laying out the guts and skin to cure, then hacking up a table for firewood to cook the meat. With the deer so close, I harvested the rest of the meat that evening and cooked it too, storing it in the fridge. The weather was bad on day 135, and I spent some time chopping up these tables for wood. Then, when it cleared, I searched this little place across the bridge I'd left before. The house was boarded up, and there wasn't much to find, except this wolf that tried to sneak up on me when I was marking my map. It went well enough. I had a bandage to stop the bleeding, and then followed its blood trail. I stopped on the way to grab this burdock and started to worry I might fall as the trail got steeper and steeper. When I found the wolf, I harvested everything, not really wanting to come back up here. I had plenty of meat already, but it seemed wasteful to leave it. Might as well grab these feathers too. Never mind, I didn't want that feather anyway. I'm just going back inside. I dropped off the wolf stuff, looked right at this antiseptic, then went back out. I wanted to clear out this little shack by the water, where I found maybe enough ammo to make up for all my misfires, then gathered some cattail around the water before realizing I had a risk of infection. Oops. Nearby, this beard lichen was hanging right in front of me, so I grabbed it, and couldn't resist exploring a little further until I heard this wolf. Well, I guess I should probably go take care of this infection first. I hunted another deer on day 136, mostly just for the archery practice. Shh, don't judge me. I spent the next day exploring, hoping to find a different way back to Mystery Lake. I could go back the way I came, but I assumed it would just lead me to the locked back door of the dam. I stopped for a while to warm up in this empty cave, then found one more empty cave, some ominous-looking signs, this poor fellow, and one more slightly less empty cave. All this walking uphill had me extra tired, so I headed back for a nap next. Then I didn't really feel like going out again. I went back to exploring in the morning, but it was just too cold, and I ended up stopping to make a fire in this cave.
Come on, little fire.
I chopped up some mushrooms I found while I warmed up, then ended up just going back to town. With a risk of cabin fever again, I stayed outside collecting firewood until I couldn't carry anymore. Then it still wasn't much better, so I decided it was time to build a snow shelter. Looks like I got it done just in time. It wasn't long a blizzard blew in. Better make some fresh water first, though. I had plenty stored up at the barn, but it's heavy and you can only carry so much. Now, if only I could get this daggone fire started. With my level 4 fire starting, it's been a while since I've failed a fire, and this one took me 4 tries. Eventually, I made it back outside and into the snow shelter for the night. By the next day, I was finally rid of the cabin fever risk and went back inside, then hung out at the community center long enough to finish curing this deer hide.
Ooh, yeah.
I used it to repair my boots before walking all the way back to the barn in them. I watched for the bear, but it wasn't there. Then went inside and spent the rest of my evening sharpening my axe and cleaning my gun. Still no bear the next morning, and I spent most of the day making myself a new set of crampons. I wanted to move on from this area, but couldn't carry too much, so I hated to leave all this scrap metal I had stored up. I made a fishing lure too, and went back out to look for the bear again. Nope. There was a wolf, though. I'd left all my meat back at the community center and couldn't pass up the easy dinner. Oh, there's the bear. Looking at my map, I figured I needed to go west to get to Mystery Lake, and decided to do some more exploring by the farmhouse. When I started that way, though, there was a pack of wolves heading right for me. I couldn't decide if they were actually coming for me or just passing through, and moved behind these hay bales to watch. They seemed to stop, and I started towards the road, turning around to see they were following me. I had a piece of cooked meat on me, but I wasn't getting the stinky symbol. Maybe I can just eat it. With only a bit of meat left now, I continued putting distance between me and the wolves, making my way to the farmhouse again. I took a quick nap there and started west to explore, eating the rest of the meat just to be safe. I surveyed some, found a little barn, and then ended up back at this shed I'd found when I got lost in the blizzard. Oh, this must be some cooked meat I dropped. No, that was dumb. It was raw.
What a way to die. I just want to die.
Guess I'll have to put off that trip for a day or so, if I don't pass out before I make it to the house. After lots of sleeping, I managed to survive the food poisoning. Though I may not survive the embarrassment of that dumb decision, that's okay, give me time, I'm sure I'll top it. I mean, just today, I missed half a dozen shots on this deer, harvested it right next to a bunch of wolves, Then after cooking the meat, went back outside and let this wolf take a bite of me without even shooting it. I should probably just stay inside now. The next day, the weather was too bad to go anywhere, and I passed time on the porch to keep from getting cabin fever. When things cleared up, I checked for wolves and harvested the rest of the deer. Inside, I started a fire to cook it and reached level 5 fire starting skill.
Ooh.
Look at that, a 90% chance to start fires. I found the wolf under some birds the next morning and harvested it. Then later the weather went bad again and I made another boo-boo.
This is a shitty.
What did I do?
Daggone it. This time, bad water was the culprit, and now I've got dysentery. On top of that, I was also still fighting cabin fever, which made for a rough night, alternating 1-hour naps, drinking water to keep from getting dehydrated, checking my cabin fever risk, and sitting on the porch. The next morning, I was still feeling really rough. My health was at half, and I was starting to worry this might be the death of me. I'd assumed it would go away on its own eventually, but we all know what assume spells. Pretty sure I have some antibiotics back at the barn. Guess I'd better go get those. My health was already lower than I'd like. A bear would most likely mean death, so I looked over the field from this hill and went for it. I was thankful not to see the bear as I approached, and went inside to find I was right. I did have some antibiotics here. I took them and then a nap. My cabin fever risk was still really high though, so I only slept an hour just to get enough energy to build myself another snow shelter.
Might. Oh, I do need to put the gun away. Yeah. Okay. It's fine, we're fine.
Still planning to leave this place in hopes of finding my way back to the front of the dam, I repaired my rabbit skin hat and grabbed a cured wolf pelt, some cured guts, a can for water, and a few other things. Except this rabbit skin. Yeah, I probably won't need that. It was cold on my way to the farmhouse, and by the time I made it, I was starting to freeze. I needed to stay in and warm up, so I spent some time ripping down curtains for cloth, used some for repairs, but wanted to make sure I had enough for a snow shelter if I needed it. Good thing I had to stop and warm up. Looks like today would have made for rough travel for sure. Oh, and now I'm getting scurvy risk. Great. I had a couple cattails that helped hold it off till morning, when it came back with cabin fever again. Well, you know what would probably take care of both of those? A nice fishing trip. I went back to the barn to grab my sleeping bag, but couldn't pass up the free meal and some archery practice first. On my way to the fish pond, I wasn't exactly sure I was heading the right way, and stopped on this rock to check my map, which gave this wolf time to sneak up. I bandaged myself and sheltered in this cave to use some antiseptic. With all my different gear protecting me, the wolves are more annoying than anything. The infection from one of their bites could definitely take me out if I wasn't careful though. Eventually I made it to the fishing pond that evening, where I started a fire and made myself some birch tea to heal, before breaking the ice and getting right to fishing. I was so tired I put my catch on the fire and took a little nap, waking up to it absolutely burnt. I'm sure that'll taste great. Oops, maybe I'll just fish more in the morning. It was a lot colder than I had expected in here without the fire, and I was pretty chilly when I woke up. Definitely gonna need a fire. I should have realized how quickly I was going to burn through these sticks at this point, but I didn't, and just started fishing. By the time I noticed, it was too late. A blizzard was raging outside so hard that even with my little fire, I couldn't stay warm, and the last thing I wanted to do was go out in the storm. Starting to worry, I made myself some tea to warm up, then did some more fishing, hoping the storm would pass. When it didn't and my fire went out, I really started to worry, and made another dumb decision to try and sleep for an hour. As I woke up, the wind was still raging, and now I was risking hypothermia. With no other choice, I ran out into the blinding snow looking for firewood. I could try to hack up this limb, but I'm sure that would lead to me joining the dead guy over there. So instead, I started picking up sticks. Starting to panic even more, I ran back with them to start a fire, throwing all 10 of them in. Then, still freezing, I put on some tea, which helped more than anything, and took another nap. It was still awful out, but I was warm enough now to handle breaking up this big cedar limb. The firewood from it made the fire a lot hotter and last a lot longer, allowing me to nap again and fish out the rest of the storm. So much for a relaxing fishing trip, but at least I got rid of the scurvy and cabin fever risk. I stayed there again the next day, too cold to walk back to the farm that morning. Along with a bit of vitamin C for the scurvy, you also get lamp oil from fish, which was a nice bonus. I got in some archery practice that day too, and gathered plenty of firewood this time to keep me warm through the night. I was ready to get out of the fishing hut on day 150, but the game had other plans as usual. It started storming again. Guess I'll be staying one more day. By the end of that day, I'd run out of firewood again and spent the night trying my best not to freeze to death. I think that's about enough of this place. I checked my map and headed to follow the river back down to the farm, where on my way I saw the moose again. Ooh. It was too tempting to pass up this time, and I carefully climbed up on this rock nearby. I started to take the shot when it moved, and I decided to go to a closer spot. This one, though, was too close. It stood its ground and growled at me as I panicked and took the shot, missing not once but twice as it started to run around the rock. Well, that went about how I expected, I guess. Not sure if the moose could get up here with me, I hopped off the other side and ran, chickening out again. Time for more archery practice. It ended up storming again that evening, and boy was I happy not to be at the fishing hut anymore. I woke up nearly starving the next morning, with only this MRE I've been saving left to eat. I wanted to keep it for travel though, and hustled back over to the farmhouse where I knew I had some leftover deer meat. I grabbed a couple corn dogs on the way too, and then ate the rancid meat from the fridge. I had a deer skin cured here too, and used it to repair my boots before going out to look for something to hunt. 2 wolves and a bear sounds like the start to a good joke, but that's what I found out front. The bear was tempting. I still really wanted a bearskin coat. Instead, though, I went around the back where I ended up finding these deer. Looks like I'm finally starting to get a bit better with this bow. The wolves were on the smell as I took everything back to the house. I spent the rest of the day cooking it and prepping. Really, this time I'm going to go somewhere else. I left the skins curing, assuming I'd be back. Then, after checking first for the bear, I headed to the road and followed it west, which according to the map, seemed like it would head to Mystery Lake. Instead, the road led to a place called Keeper's Pass South. Maybe this place leads to another entrance at Mystery Lake. I wasn't sure, but either way, the curiosity hook was in. What would I find at the end? I cautiously continued up the road, checking ahead as much as I could. The vehicles along the way made me feel a little bit safer. Nothing compares to a nice building though, and thankfully it wasn't long before I found one. This trailer made me feel safe enough to put my gun away, and I grabbed some charcoal from this grill to map the place, then finished clearing out everything. Inside, I warmed up and found a few goodies before going back out. This place was new and exciting, also terrifying. There was some sort of viewing spot looking over the water, and a parking lot with a couple cars in it. This was the second marine flare I'd found here.
Well, this stuff will come in handy.
Which is some really great foreshadowing for where this place heads. I kept exploring, finding some mushrooms, a couple saplings, and surprise! Another wolf. It spooked me not once, but twice. Luckily, I spooked it too, and it ran down the road where I caught up to it, much better prepared.
Alright, dinner. Sorry, buddy.
It made for a nice dinner. I really hadn't brought much food. I'd made sure to bring my can for water, though. I followed the road the other way the next day, across this bridge. No, I don't think I'll climb that yet. Knowing my luck, you can't come back up. I kept on the road instead, finding a car and truck to search, then only a dead end. Freezing, I grabbed a few mushrooms before heading back. Look, I bet this is that climbing spot I avoided earlier. Yep. When I made it back to the trailer, I was already losing a bit of health from the cold, but I was excited to find I'd missed something. Woo!
I'll take it.
More rifle ammunition I can't use yet. I killed some time inside preparing some mushrooms, then went back outside. Looking over the edge, I could see one wolf on the ice and took the climb back down.
Hello, Wolfie Wolfie. There's a fire here.
By the water, I found another frozen person, slumped over in front of their campfire. Guess they won't mind if I take this peanut butter.
Best be prepared for anything.
There were some bunnies here too, a big hole in the ice, and more mushrooms. Then I noticed there were also more wolves. Maybe I'll just go this way for now. There were several rose hips to gather, a spot to climb down I passed on for now, and this cave. I'd left my water can at the trailer this time, so I didn't want to risk going much further. A little peek won't hurt though. It looked interesting enough, with an abandoned fire and axe, along with a dark tunnel to follow. Tempting, but I don't think so. Not without my cam. I went back out of the cave for now and down to the ice again. I'd seen a fishing hut from above and carefully made my way around this ice hole next to it, grabbing some cattails along the way. The fishing hut didn't have a door, which made me sad. There was an energy bar though, and you won't believe it, a can. And it was a good thing because I ended up stuck here longer than planned when a blizzard rolled in. I already knew how quickly I could freeze in the fishing hut. So first, I tried to find a place for a snow shelter, but there just wasn't enough snow. Back to the fishing hut then. I started a fire there and put on some tea to warm up, then some water for the night. I couldn't even sleep here if I wanted to. I hadn't brought a sleeping bag. And I definitely didn't want to try to go past those wolves to get to the trailer in this, so I tried again to find enough snow for a shelter. After finally getting it set up, I was starting to freeze and climbed inside as soon as it was done. These always make me nervous, and I'll only sleep for a little while at a time. I'm still not sure if wolves or bears can get in them, and it just seems too easy to freeze to death. That night, the storm cleared, but I didn't want to go back past the wolves in the dark either. So I killed some time before the sun rose, chopping the mushrooms I'd found, just long enough for another blizzard to start. Well, darn. I was worried about freezing, and all my gear was wet, but my temperature seemed fine, so I slept for an hour. Thankfully it passed, and the wolves had moved a bit further up the ice, so I was able to make it past them easily, heading back to the trailer. I'd used all my sticks for the shelter and gathered some on the way. If I hadn't had them earlier, I'd have been in big trouble. Ah, home sweet home. Not that I ever stay at one for long. I was stressed out after all that and stayed nearby the trailer. It was a good thing I did because it stormed again later. Feeling pretty confident about where the wolves were the next morning, I got a nice surprise on the bridge. Shouldn't have wasted the extra bullets, but it's too late now. I watched over the edge as the wounded wolf ran and another attacked a rabbit. The wounded one ran back up the hill, and I thought I'd go around to find it for lunch when I ran into another one. And this time, I finally got out my bow instead of wasting more pistol ammo. That went better than expected.
Let's go.
For some reason, I hadn't really been using my bow with the wolves. I will be now, though. I warmed up inside for a while and cooked the meat on the grill out front, spending the rest of the day exploring the upper area near the trailer a bit more. With nothing but dead ends on the roads, I decided to follow the cave the next day, stopping first at the fishing hut to cook some fish I'd left in the cabinet.
I wonder if I can drop any of this.
I tore down my snow shelter while it cooked, and then made my way back to the cave. The other wolf had fallen here, but I passed over it, not wanting to be stinky wherever I ended up. Inside, there was a deer carcass this time, which freaked me out a bit because it wasn't here before, meaning something had to have killed it and drug it in here, right? Guess we'll find out. I lit my lantern first. The tunnel seemed really dark. As I got inside though, it was lit with all this glowing blue stuff. It wasn't long I came to a T. The right path was only a dead end, so I headed to the left. At the next turn I went left too, and it wasn't long until I found the exit. Keeper's Pass North. Well, at least we're getting somewhere. Though I'm starting to think this probably doesn't lead to Mystery Lake. As I followed what was really the only path forward, it started to get windy and I hugged the walls to stay warm. I was debating at this point, thinking about just turning around. Curiosity won though, and I kept on going. Along the way, I picked up a risk for scurvy again, and grabbed these cattails for a small dose of vitamin C. It's like they were put here just for me. There was an old rundown house on the path, a small climb, and then this climbing spot across a gap I couldn't get to. The path continued past it anyway, and next I saw something a bit scary up ahead. A rope bridge. I could see it swaying in the wind, and not only that, but there was also a wolf at the end. Yep, that looks like a ton of fun. This is probably when I thought the hardest about turning around. I'd already traveled so far though. Nope, I'm not going back now. The bridge was missing planks, and without the option to jump in this game, I worried maybe I'd just fall. Or maybe the bridge would just snap, or the wind would pick up and shake me off. None of those things happened though. Instead, I just messed up with the wolf at the end. I completely missed my shot and it attacked, leaving me with a sprained wrist and bleeding with a risk of infection. I bandaged the wrist and stopped the bleeding, but found myself once again without anything for infection. Well, that's not good. You'd think I'd have learned by now. All I could do was continue on, hoping I'd run into something that might help. This road's a good start at least. I followed it to the right first, which led me to a path I probably could have followed. It seemed pretty sketchy though, and I think now probably led to that climbing spot, which I'm not sure I'm up for. So I turned around and followed the road the other way. This led me to a tunnel with a truck that said Blackrock on its door. And on the other side of the tunnel, I found myself in the Blackrock region. It definitely wasn't Mystery Lake, but I wasn't too disappointed. One of my favorite things about this game is exploring somewhere new and not knowing what you'll find. That's why I prefer to go into most games blind. I looked out here, immediately finding a tree with the old man's beard lichen to keep me from getting an infection.
Hooey!
And there's even a bit of a deer here I can have for dinner. Looks like we're sleeping outside tonight. Day 158, I spent my time just trying to get my bearings in this new place. The road is blocked by what looked like a very rough rock slide, and across this ravine I noticed a very large pack of some strange acting wolves. I think they're stuck, which is just fine by me.
Oh, so cold.
It was cold and I took a break in the snow shelter, having a snack and repairing my gloves. Then instead of getting better, the weather only got worse. Despite the wind, I explored a bit more, following this path around the left side of the road. There was a way onto the bridge here, where I found a blue marine flare and another roadblock. I turned around and looked down the path under the bridge. It looked clear, but I was already so cold I went back to my shelter instead. And lucky thing I did. Just as I climbed inside, a blizzard blew in. It didn't last too long and left me just enough time to grab dinner before the sun was gone.
Oh.
But sometime in the night, another blizzard started. I wasn't too worried. These snow shelters have kept me safe in a blizzard before. As the storm continued, though, I started to get cold.
Well, that's not good.
I waited, hoping things would clear up, but things only got worse. Now I was starting to get hypothermia, and unless I get warm soon, I'll eventually die here. With no other choice, I got out of the shelter and went looking for a place to start a fire. Just as panic was setting in, I found a place the wind was blocked by this tree.
Thank you, tree.
I used an accelerant to get it going faster and threw on some tea. It warmed me up and I made another cup. Maybe I'll survive this after all. Unless the wind changes and blows out my fire.
Ew.
Luckily, it was all over after that, and I gathered some sticks and firewood next, before going to warm up in the shelter again. Maybe I'll just take a nap. I woke up around noon feeling much better. I think it's time for a walk now. I didn't know where I was going, but I really didn't want to spend another night in that snow shelter. I headed down the hill by the bridge first, deciding against following the ravine, and going up the hill on the other side instead. I could see birds in the sky up ahead. They were flying over another dead deer. Then, down the road, I was happy to see some sort of building. My head was on a swivel as I approached, hoping not to walk around the corner into a bear or all those wolves I saw before. I searched this truck outside first, then found the building was an old substation. Please don't be locked. The door opened just fine, and I felt a wave of relief when I walked inside. There's nothing like the safety that 4 walls and a roof can give. Oh, and a door. I'm so happy it has a door.
There's a bed. Ooh. What's that? Peaches, tea. Going to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches.
After gathering everything inside, I did something dumb again, putting all the ruined food in storage.
Put that and that away. Put that away.
Yep, there it goes. A little lighter, I searched outside the building next. There was a grill, a workbench, and some tools. Then, up these stairs, a red warning sign that made me a little nervous, and nothing at all in this box.
Didn't even get anything.
I wanted to see what else was nearby and started having a look around. Climbing up on this rock, I could see the road led to a broken bridge, and I turned back to find I must have barely missed this bear. Hopping down the other side, I went back to the substation a different way, hoping I didn't walk right into any wolves instead. Then I thought I might try to see the bear through this fence. I never saw it, only heard it somewhere nearby, and ran straight inside. Yep, still a chicken.
Bye-bye.
At this point, I realized the storage had eaten the ruined food, which made me sad.
Oh, I'm so sad I couldn't eat those.
I still had this tomato soup, an MRE I've been saving, and a ton of cattails I'd picked up in Keeper's Pass. I'd also picked up this hacksaw, which I tested out on these chairs.
I know there's a bear. Somewhere. Waiting to eat me.
I was nervous when I needed to melt some snow for water the next morning, and after checking the area, I started a fire in the barrel outside. I boiled a few cans worth before I heard something. I knew it was the bear, I just couldn't find it. So I went back into the fenced area and turned to watch the entrance. As the sound got even louder, I turned to find it was right behind me. I didn't think it could go through the fence, but that didn't stop me from completely panicking. I guess it could have gone worse.
Put the gun away. Whew. Okay. Keep it together. Focus. Focus. I could make more bandages. That could be good, yeah. And reload.
After a little pep talk, I went back out, hoping to kill it. Of course it was gone, but it didn't take me long to find it.
Oh, there's the bear.
Just as something else found me. Other than its footsteps, it hadn't made a sound. Then I heard them all howl. That definitely wasn't a normal wolf. It must be one of the timberwolves the blue marine flares mention. Eventually, I got the nerve up to go back out, which must have spooked one of the wolves. Then, as I stood by the door, I heard the footsteps again. At this point, I think I'm probably just going to die of a heart attack. The wolf came back one more time, stopping to howl as I finally took it down. I wanted to harvest it and started checking around for its friends when I heard the bear again. Well, this place is just great, isn't it? I knew I was going to have to deal with it one way or the other, and made myself go outside one more time. The bear was gone as usual, but there was another wolf this time.
Did I hear a wolf?
It ran first before coming back and running right through the fence opening. I missed with my first shot, the next one got him as he left, and then the bear was back again. I tried to shoot it between the bars of the fence. Unsurprisingly though, I only heard metal when it hit. As the bear reared up this time though, I kept it together enough to shoot. It didn't seem to faze it at all, and it ran around the fence to get to me. I stood my ground and got off one more round, not even realizing it was my last, and pulling the trigger right till the end. I woke up to watch the bear slowly stagger
It's a
away
birthday.
as I bandaged myself up. I knew it would go off to die, and this time I knew I had to stay outside. Going back inside seems to reset it, and I'd really like for this one to be gone for good. The only problem is the other wolves. I started an extra fire, but only had enough
on,
sticks
fire.
for a few minutes, and got out one of these blue marine flares while I passed some time boiling water. A storm started up next, and I decided maybe that would keep the wolves away long enough for me to harvest this carcass. I was freezing when I was done and finally went outside, hoping it had been long enough for the bear to bleed out. Mostly healed by the next morning, I went back outside when another wolf showed up. I knew I was running out of ammo and lit a flare. It just didn't seem to care. So I chickened out like always and ran inside. Ooh, I really hate this place. With the flare still lit, I went right back out, this time throwing the flare as I panicked and switching to my gun. It seemed to scare it away, but only for a moment. I managed to shoot it once and it ran again. Would you look at that, though? There's the bear. Seeing it was down boosted my spirits. At least I've got one less thing to worry about now. I harvested the meat off the wolf next, putting it inside the storage to hide the smell. It didn't matter though, the wolf was already back. I don't know if it was the same one, but it spooked when it saw me, and I shot it again as it ran away. The wolf didn't come back this time, and after cooking some meat on the fire for a while with no sign of it, I felt mostly safe going to harvest the bear. Of course, I was on edge the whole time anyway, waiting for something to try and eat me. Nothing did though, and I took the hide and guts back to cure. I explored the area more on day 162, grabbing all these cattails, checking out this cave and the broken bridge I'd seen, collecting a deer hide, and then the bear meat. Day 163, I got to have another run-in with the timberwolves. I'd gone up the road to explore and got in this car to search it. When I got back out, there was a wolf right in front of it. I shot it twice, not like I'm running low on ammo or anything. It ran and I finished searching the car, before backtracking a bit and going up towards this truck. That wasn't the end of it though. It wasn't long, I heard a howl. The whole pack was here this time and I thought about hiding in the truck. What good would that do though? I'd just come back out surrounded. So instead, I stood my ground. The first one came at me straight on until I shot it. Another came around the side as they tried to surround me. I shot two more, maybe the same one actually, I'm not sure. I wanted to get at least one bullet in each of them, hoping they'd all bleed out. That left me with only 10 bullets left though, and I switched to my bow. I hadn't realized I had the weaker arrows equipped, but it was still enough to persuade this last one to run away. I watched them running around for a while, making sure they weren't coming back, then searched this truck and wrecked train car before calling it a day. The next day, I did some clothing repairs as it stormed outside and realized my rabbit skin hat was about to break. Of course, I'd left my cured rabbit skin behind and hadn't seen a single rabbit since I entered this region, so I headed back there. The rabbit was still laying where I'd shot it, and I skinned it before visiting my old snow shelter for lunch. I made it back to the substation that evening without any issues other than hearing this wolf howl. Then made a rookie mistake chopping up these pallets and almost getting hypothermia.
Oh, it's cold.
I was all healed up by day 165 and went hunting deer. My deerskin pants and boots were looking pretty rough too. When I was tracking it, I ran into this place just past where I'd met the wolves the other day. There was a house that had seen better days, and birds circling one of the wolves I'd shot. Then this old shed with a few goodies inside.
Beef jerky.
For now, I'd lost track of the deer and was freezing by the time I'd made it back. After warming up for a while though, I went looking again, eventually finding it up on this big rock and skinning it as night started to fall. Day 166, I went up this road thinking the timberwolves were gone. Turns out I was very, very wrong. And this encounter was the worst one yet. With only 10 bullets left, I tried to use my bow at first, but it didn't go well, to say the least. They work together and try to surround you, and unlike the black wolves, these bite and run. This one only managed to get my clothes, and I hid in the car to try and get myself together, deciding maybe I could keep them off with one of these marine flares. It worked, sort of.
Stay away.
Okay. I ended up throwing it down and switching to my gun. I guess those 10 bullets won't do me much good if I'm dead. I shot one as it attacked, causing me to start losing blood. Then the next one destroyed my rabbit skin hat. I shot it one more, only hitting the ground, but it kept it away long enough for me to make it inside.
So much for ammo. What did it... Oh god, I'm bleeding. And I'm infected. Okay, blood loss. Infection. No, my hat.
Losing my hat was rough. Now, instead of only needing one cured skin to repair it, I'd need 3 to make a new one.
Dang it. I'm taking a nap.
I made myself an improvised head wrap from cloth for now, and had a couple cured skins ready the next day I used to repair my pants and jacket. Everything was looking pretty rough after yesterday. I spent the night enjoying some nice tea in hopes of keeping away the scurvy. If I don't move on and find something better to eat, I'm gonna be in trouble. So the next day, that's what I did. I packed up the cured stuff and this half-done deer skin, harvesting one rabbit skin from what was left of my old hat, drank some warming tea, and headed across this very sketchy, broken bridge. There were a couple abandoned cars to search, and then a dead end. I turned back and followed this hill next, where I was pretty excited to find rabbits and cattails, along with this cave with a bed inside. I laid out my deer skin to keep curing there, and gathered some things outside. Well, except the rabbits. I guess they'll get to live another day. I got the last rabbit skin I needed the next day and moved on from the cave. Ended up following this tree bridge, which led to some climbing, then a sketchy rock bridge, more climbing, a timberwolf overlook, another tree bridge, and at the end, more rabbits, a deer carcass, and a cave where I stayed for the night. Day 170, I checked out where this path led next, and it ended at this cliff with a climbing rope. I could see a black wolf at the bottom, and it was really cold out, so I went back to the cave for now. Feeling pretty safe that the wolves couldn't get up here, I spent the morning doing a horrible job hunting another rabbit. Then I went back to the climbing spot, thinking pretty heavily on climbing down, when I spotted this pack of timberwolves. Never mind, maybe I'll just stay up here for now. The next morning, I put one of the rabbits out as a decoy back on this part of the path that crossed over the road, hoping it would pull the wolves away from the climbing spot. Then went back to the rope climb just to chicken out again and spend one more night in the cave. Early the next morning, and down to my last bit of food, I finally ate the MRE I'd been carrying around forever. Then, completely out, I had no choice but to go down the rope. It was a nervous climb. I figured the wolf would see me before I even got to the bottom, but it didn't, and I cautiously made my way around it. Very thankful the timberwolves hadn't been waiting for me either. This broken down house held a can of peaches and a sewing kit. Then I eased my way down to this shed where the wolf must have heard me rummaging through this toolbox. After dealing with the timberwolves, I managed to stay pretty calm with this regular one, shooting it right in the head with my bow. I finished searching the shed and continued next over this hill, where, of course, the timberwolves were waiting. Nope, definitely not the way I want to go. One had already caught wind of me, though, and followed me over the hill. I spooked it, and it spooked me. I only had 3 arrows left and 7 bullets. Another pack encounter would wipe that out quick, so I took another peek to make sure it wasn't coming back and turned around. I didn't know what I'd find the other way, and it was getting really cold. Maybe I'll just harvest the meat off this other wolf and go back up to the cave for now. Except I was carrying too much to climb. Really hoping those timberwolves didn't come along, I started dropping things, panicking a bit that the smell might attract them. Then things only got worse when a blizzard started and risk for hypothermia set in.
Oh, so cold.
Eventually, I was light enough to climb and made it to the top just in time. I climbed back down the next morning, well rested and ready to try again. This time going around to the right. There was a road and power lines, but no sign of any shelter yet. Only these moose-marked trees, and just after them, the moose. I heard it first and ran, not knowing where it was, until I saw its antlers come out from behind this rock. Not today, buddy. I'm too low on ammo. I spotted this fence after that, which gave me some hope, and led me to this trailer. Inside, I was excited to find a single bullet and broken arrow, along with a bit of food. I can probably use this cloth, too. After looting everything, I set out all the skins I had, and went back outside to see what else I could find. I didn't go too far. I was stressed out and tired. There was this deer carcass nearby, though. I skinned first, before going back to harvest the meat, making for a nice dinner that evening. I set out again the next morning, exploring, when I found a downed tree that I couldn't help but follow. It led to another I wanted to cross too, but it was just way too cold out and I had to turn around. I repaired some stuff while warming up and went back later that day. Following the trees, I eventually ended up somewhere I'm pretty sure I've been before. So I grabbed these birch saplings for arrows and some rose hips too, then headed back to the trailer for the night. I started day 175 with some tea and this time headed back down the hill and towards the trees where I'd seen the moose. I tried to climb up on some rocks, hoping to see the moose before it saw me this time. Instead, I ended up seeing another downed tree to cross that I just couldn't resist. I could hear the rushing water under me as I crossed, and it led me to another climbing rope with someone at the bottom it looked like had fallen. I took what was left of their stuff and climbed up the rope myself, curiosity leading the way. I used all my energy with the climb and drank a cup of coffee before continuing on. Up ahead, it looked like an old prison, with barbed wire around the top walls, but no entrance. I kept going, collecting several cattails, trying to find a way inside, and hoping not to run into any wolves or bears. Eventually, I found a road that led right to the front gate and a door to a guard station. I worried it might be locked when I tried it, but next thing I knew, I was inside it. I was pretty happy to find some snacks and another single bullet. There was a cup of coffee too, but no bed. I opened the next door right into the prison yard, where there were several vehicles to search. Then it started to storm and I tried another guard post door to find this one was locked. I went back to the other one instead, eating some ketchup chips and ruined peanut butter for my dinner. Extremely tired at this point, I had no choice but to go outside and risk hypothermia to build myself a snow shelter. Now, hopefully I won't freeze to death in it. I continued exploring the prison the next day. I wasn't sure if anything could get in here with me or not, so I was being pretty cautious. I found another truck, these locked doors, and then this door that led to some stairs.
Cold is making my head feel thick.
It was part of the infirmary, with even more locked doors and a few things to collect. I still needed to make a new rabbit skin hat, so a workbench would be nice. There was one back outside the substation, but I really didn't want to chance a bear or a pack of wolves sneaking up while I tried to make it. Back outside, I found another set of locked doors with a keypad and a note. Guess I'll come back to that. Next, I noticed this boiler room with a warning sign, then got sidetracked when I saw this door open to the outside. Looking through the gate, I could see a wolf off in the trees and went around hoping it wouldn't see me. I checked this bus next, finding myself a Christmas-colored thermos and this improvised knife. Sneaking around, I managed to shut the gate without the wolf noticing and went back to searching. Oh look, it's a workbench. It's not indoors, but sheltered and closed off from the wolves at least. Definitely a better option for crafting big projects than the other one. This would be great if I'd brought those 3 rabbit skins with me. I had only planned to spy on the moose and left all my stuff at the trailer. Well, this place is exciting at least. I ended up going into the boiler room next. There was no light in there at all and I had to use my lantern. The warning sign had made me nervous and all the broken pipes and loose cables inside didn't help. There were more warning signs as I went, but I ignored them all and kept going. None of it's running, so I should be fine. I was more afraid I'd get lost. After several tunnels and turns, I found myself at a door, which led outside to this power plant. I searched it, not finding much of use other than this cup of coffee. The place looked cool, though. I thought about going through this gate and exploring out front, but decided against it instead, wanting to go finish searching the prison. Back in the tunnels, I found a few more things, this arrow shaft and a fire striker among them. Ooh, it's been a while since I've had one of these. Carefully, I found my way to the stairs out, heading straight to the workbench to turn that arrow shaft into an arrow. I finished it, feeling pretty safe in this fenced-in area, and heading back to the guard post, only to walk right into a wolf. Oh, hello there. I was completely unprepared for it, which made me jump even more. It didn't seem to be able to come through this fence opening at least, and ran when I aimed my bow. This gave me enough distance to line up a shot the next time, but I hadn't even seen its friend. I heard it though, as the first one ignored the arrow I shot into it and attacked me anyway. Then, hobbling after that, when the second one came, I didn't even get up my bow. That was unexpected. Maybe I'll just stay in here for a while. How did the wolves get in? I had no idea, but it made me nervous that I'd missed some hole in the gate. So I was checking the perimeter, things got even more interesting. That is definitely a bear. I really hope it can't get in here too. It stormed early on day 178, then I spent some time harvesting and cooking up more wolf. Next, I decided to just grab these 2 rabbit skins out front instead of traveling to the trailer for the others. I'll just need one more to make my hat, and I don't really feel like going back. I woke up the next morning to find 2 more wolves right in the yard with me. Good morning. I hid inside for a while before going back out to deal with them. They ran at first, and I shot one. Then, back inside, the other one stared me down through the door. It eventually gave up, turning away, and I went back out to deal with it later that day. Guess I've got plenty of wolf meat at least. I was starting to think they were just spawning in here, but it still made me really nervous about the bear next door, and I checked the fence again that evening. Day 180, I thought for a while on that security door and decided to go outside the gate on that side of the prison, where I found this rabbit carcass with nothing left on it. Then I found what killed it. Another wolf. Running low on arrows at this point too, I shot with my pistol but missed. I bandaged myself up after and explored a bit more, then ran into another one that followed me all the way back to the gate. Maybe I'll just check out this note again. It said east and up the hill, looking up at the mountain to find the code. So I marked my map and thought some more. Maybe I'll try again tomorrow. I didn't though, instead finally giving in and traveling back to the trailer. I made my way back down the rope and was watching carefully for the moose when I heard a horrible howl, followed by a pack's worth more, and then there was the timberwolf bar. I'd hoped they were behind me and ran for the trailer. Instead, they were right in front of me. I turned the other way, but one had already snuck around and blocked me. It got a bite, and I kept a few away at the cost of most of my ammo. Until this one took its last bite and the rest ran away. That wasn't on my planner for today. When I made it to the trailer, I grabbed all the cured goodies I'd left, then was tempted to stay the night, but instead decided it was probably best to go back while all the wolves were still scattered from the fight. Back at the prison, I started using a deerskin to repair my pants, then headed straight to the workbench. After 3.5 hours, I finally had my rabbit skin hat back. I used the birch saplings the next day to make more arrow shafts, then took almost 5 hours to make myself 3 new simple arrows. Day 183, I used the maple sapling to make myself a new survival bow, and it didn't take me long to get a chance to use it. Day 184, I really wanted to try and follow the instructions to find the code for the door, and thought it must be out that side of the prison. So I cleared out one more wolf there, and then another. Thinking it would surely be clear here now, this one gave me quite the scare. Okay, maybe now it's clear. I got distracted from my goal when I noticed this side of the prison was open. Might as well go check it out. There was another locked door at one guard post, then a rope to climb at the next. Inside, I found another note and 3 bullets this time, which looked like pure gold to me. There was a trap door there that wouldn't open, and then back down the rope, a couple more locked doors. This gate door was unlocked at least, though the sign didn't agree with that, and inside I found a new building to search. At this point, about the only thing that would get me excited would be ammo or another rifle. I found neither of those here, but it was still fun to look. I ended up on the roof after that and followed a walkway across to the infirmary roof. Of course, the door was locked there too, and I took a break from searching to go harvest one of the wolves. I actually slept a full 8 hours in the shelter that night, finally feeling pretty sure that I wouldn't freeze to death. Then got back on track the next day, trying to go east up the hill like the note said. All I could find, though, was rock and mountain too steep to climb. There was another opening to the prison I went through next, which I was pretty sure probably led to the bear. Instead, though, I ran into a wolf. After I shot it, I was still watching for the bear as I started checking the doors, and it ran all around me. Not even thinking the wolf might attack again. Guess I must have stepped on its toe. The bear seemed to be gone and all the doors locked, but there was a rope to climb. It led to a walkway with more locked doors, then a rooftop and a very unlocked door. After clearing it out, I went into this door that led to a stairwell. Thankfully, I'd found some lantern fuel down in the boiler room tunnels and had plenty for light. This isn't whatever's behind the security door, but still pretty exciting. It ended up leading into the prison cells. It took a bit of work to get past all the wreckage inside them. Then I found what looked like a very bad ending. Beside it, though, was something very interesting. A blackrock ballistic vest. It was really heavy and I couldn't figure out how to wear it at first. Turns out it's an accessory and gives you 50% armor while also slowing you down 40%. With all my hide gear, I don't know if it's worth it for me. This ski mask, on the other hand, might do me some good. I had to repair it some first, then switched it out for my old maple leaf hat. I slept down in the cell bunks that night before finishing my search the next day. It was still dark out when I came up that morning. I think being down there had thrown me off, so I took a little nap to pass the time. I'd brought up the vest just in case, then started out to go back to the guard post. Only this time, there was a bear. I panicked for just a moment, thinking I had to go back through it to get out. That's dumb though, I can just shoot it from up here. Well, if I can get a shot on it. Once I did, I hit it first try and it started running. Then all I had to do was wait. It wasn't long I saw the birds and there it was. Before harvesting the bear skin, I closed the gate to keep the wolves out, though I'm not sure how much good it'll do. I harvested the meat too and had to take a couple trips back since I was carrying so much stuff. Time for a rooftop cookout. BYOB, bring your own bear. With this bear skin and the one left at the substation, I'd be able to make myself a bear skin coat or bedroll now. Well, if I can get past the timberwolves to get to it. For now, I'll just stay here harvesting this bear and cooking up the meat. Then, on day 188, I went back to the other part of the prison, where I was greeted by another wolf. I didn't really need the meat, but I just couldn't help myself. Then I crafted another arrow to replace one of my broken ones and headed back out front. I still really wanted to find the code to that security door, thinking now maybe it was this way. I could see what looked like another tree bridge and tried my best to get to it, with no luck at all. Day 189, I was stocked up with plenty of food and waiting for the bear skin to cure, so I headed to the substation to get the skin I'd left curing there. I had a general idea how to get to it thanks to my map. I found a rope that led down and hoped there wasn't a pack of timberwolves anywhere around. Then there it was, right where I'd left it. I took the bear hide and headed straight back up the rope with it, then put it in storage at the guard post for now before going back to the other side of the prison to get the second hide. It wasn't cured yet, but I was a little afraid a new bear would spawn. And then I'd have to go through it to get it later. Really tired from all the climbing that day, I decided to just spend the night up there, then took the hide back when I woke up in the middle of the night. Might as well keep things interesting. In the morning, I went again looking for the code, east and up the hill, but couldn't find it still. Well, maybe I could get a moose before this challenge is done. I headed back to the trailer that day, my new goal to hunt a moose. Thankfully, the timberwolves must have moved on, and I made it to the trailer without any problems. So I took a quick nap to warm up and started looking for the moose. Knowing it could probably kill me just as easily as a bear, I was pretty nervous I'd walk right up on it and tried to use the high ground to my advantage. By evening, a blizzard blew in though, and I could barely find my way back. On day 191, scurvy was trying to sneak up on me again, but I had plenty of cattails to keep it at bay for now and went hunting again for the moose. This time I decided I'd just climb up on a rock and wait. While I waited though, I got too cold and went to grab some sticks for a fire, and that's when I heard it. I never even saw it and ran back to the rock, where I waited again some time before building a fire.
Jesus, cold.
Then I waited some more. After passing some more time, I finally saw it. It was too far to shoot though, and I waited even more. I eventually got impatient and took a shot anyway, seriously underestimating the distance. So I waited. It got a bit closer, and I took the shot again. It ran for a while and then just sort of stopped, turning around and walking back my way. I almost shot it early again, but after all that, a little more waiting won't hurt. Then I took one last shot, and this one made it fall. I couldn't believe it, really. It was down already, it didn't attack me, and I don't even have to go find the body. Surely this is a dream. It wasn't though, and I harvested the skin, taking it straight back up to the prison. The hide was huge, way bigger than the bear's, and now, once it cures, I can make myself a moose hide satchel to help me carry more stuff. There's a cloak you can make with it too, but the pack rat in me definitely wants the satchel. I spent day 192 going back over the prison, looking for anything I might have missed, then stayed on the rooftop that night and saw this wolf out the window before I went to bed. Good morning, wolves. There wasn't one, but 3, including this very stiff-legged one. I harvested some of the meat and hides, taking it back up to the rooftop. I was too heavy to climb the rope, of course, though, and decided I might as well use one of these emergency stems so I wouldn't be so tired. Well, turns out I still can't climb it. And now everything just looks a little extra. I dropped some of the meat and climbed up the rope, making it inside just before the side effect hit. So much for that day. Of course, that wasn't the end of the wolves. There was one more when I came down the next morning, and another when I headed back into the main yard. I bandaged myself up and ran inside to find I was still bleeding, and things were trying to get infected fast. Luckily, I had everything I needed this time and took care of myself just fine. Well, except for the scurvy risk. Still got that going on. I could kill time and just wait here for these last 6 days, but I still really wanted to know what was behind that keypad-locked door. I searched again one more time the rest of that day, hoping to find something I'd missed. But this place here just looks like a dead end. I spent one more whole day trying to figure out what the note meant and looking for the code. Then, the day after that, I made what was arguably my biggest mistake yet. Not once, but 3 times that day, I let myself get hypothermia risk before warming back up, and didn't think much of it, warming up inside before getting in the snow shelter that evening. It was storming, and I even took a nap to make sure I wouldn't be freezing. When I went to bed for the night, though, I saw some sort of warning as the screen faded out. Did that say something about frostbite? Yep. It definitely said something about frostbite. I'd fallen asleep with my gear wet from the snow, and it had absolutely frozen my fingers and toes. I went looking for a cure to find that for this, there isn't one. My health was now permanently reduced. At least we're close to the end, I guess. I took off my frozen gloves and set them by the fire to thaw, then just sat there sad and waited for a while. All this time, and now I get frostbit. By the end of the day, something exciting happened though too. My second bearskin was finally cured and I could start working on my bearskin coat. I could have made a bedroll instead, but decided on the coat, and worked on it through most of the night and the whole next day. Then the aurora gave me a bit of extra light to work into the next night. It still wasn't done the next day, and I worked on it too, finally finishing it on day 199. On day 200, my moose hide was done, and I felt pretty accomplished. But I really wished I'd found the code to that door, and I've also heard there's a cougar out there somewhere in the DLC. Let me know, should I try for 300 with my new lowered health, or maybe a new challenge of some sort? Either way, it's been fun, and thanks for watching. You know the deal, be sure to like and subscribe, and then go watch this next one for a while.